Hey everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. I'm Brian Parks, and in this video, I want to show off, well, not show off, but we're going to take a look at some of the hotspots in this Glass Minnow project. So in the last video, I gave a quick tour of what the app does. If you missed that, go ahead and check the link in the description to check out that video. That'll give a little bit more context to some of the things that we're talking about here. If you don't want to watch that, no big deal. I think there'll probably be enough context here, but it's there. Please watch it. It helps. But let's get into it. So first off, I want to point out that I added the PHP version in the bottom footer of the app. And I did that for a very specific reason. And the reason for that is, well, when I was trying to stand up this app, I initially ran it on PHP 7.2 and got this. PHP 7.2, I don't know why I picked that. It just seemed like a reasonable choice. But obviously, this app was not running on PHP 7.2, and there's some weird issue with PHP 7.2 and this active record library, which you'll see Pale's active record. It looks like it's something that I built. It kind of is, but it's based on a project that I forked a long time ago. There's actually a project out there called PHP Active Record, and it looks like it's moderately maintained. But on PHP 7.2, it has this issue. Not sure why, not sure what it is, not sure why this wasn't an issue in earlier versions of PHP. There is a pull request out on that project, but I just implemented the fix and made a new version of Pale's Active Record, since that is my project. So now in PHP 7.2, we can actually get the app to load. But PHP 7.2 is actually a pretty old version of PHP. So let's go over and look at Composer.json. My guess is that there are some things in here that are also pretty old, so we might do some upgrading there. So that's a hotspot that we'll want to look at. Another thing that I ran into, again, if you watched that last week's video, you'll see me run into this. There's this new request functionality, which actually this is the only form that I tried to submit in this app. So this could happen other places. I think, yeah, let's just select what I had chosen. So triage outstanding bugs, add to my queue, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, whatever. And then I clicked save and it bombed. Similar sort of issue to PHP, to the one that I ran into before. There's some sort of weird issue. I really don't know what's going on. But this will be something that I'll need to look into, and I'll need to decide if I want to stick with, my own active record library or choose another ORM. So that'll actually be a conversation for another video. It's possible that video has already happened. If that video already happened, I'll leave a link down below. If that conversation hasn't happened, I'll link it when I do have that video. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that when that video comes out, you'll know it. So PHP 7.2 is actually, it's still pretty old. It's at this point 4 years old. No, 2 years old. So 4 years old. Yeah, I was right. Okay, so as a start, I want to upgrade to PHP 7.4. And as far as I can tell, PHP 7.4 seems to work okay with the app. Let's see if this actually works any better. All right, so let's save. No, okay, that's going to bomb too. Okay, so we're going to have to figure out what's going on there. So that's another hotspot. I really would like to upgrade to PHP 8 just because it is at this point the newest. I figure PHP 7.4 is safe because it's the latest of It's the latest minor version of the PHP 7 major version. I haven't tried PHP 8. We'll see. That might break everything, in which case we'll have to address some other hotspots. But I'd really like to get it working in PHP 8, maybe with some backwards compatibility for PHP, some versions of PHP 7, just in case other people want to run this software on older versions, since I'm guessing PHP 8 isn't necessarily ubiquitously adopted at this point. But that'll be something to look for, something to look at in the coming weeks. Now let's dive into the code and take a look at some other potential hotspots. So everything looks fairly reasonable here. We've got an app folder. Looks like we've got some traits. That's pretty cool. Models, nothing crazy there. Mailers, yeah, as I mentioned in the other video, or a couple weeks ago, I'm using something basically like Rails Active Mailer, so that or Action Mailer, so that I can create things that look like controllers, and then they pull views and mail those views. But it's always a good place to start with your config. So config and initializers in this type of app are where we want to start. And I think that's pretty much the main thing that we'll look at. We've got Docker. Obviously, we've got some CI stuff already built out. This we'll want to get running again. That'll happen, I think, next week. So let's start with application config. Okay, so some of this I've already toyed around with just to get it running in Docker for a video, I think several weeks ago at this point. This, I don't really know if we're going to use. I'm not even really sure what it does. I just remember this was something that wasn't going to work the last time, or when I first pulled down this code. So we'll find out. That, I mean, code you don't know what it does, always a hotspot right off the bat. So we'll see. This is probably okay. Connection string in your environment, probably fine. That seems like a fine default, just so things don't blow up. In development, obviously in staging and production, we always want to get something from the environment. But let's go to startup.php. This looks like an absolute mess. So I think this is our first major hotspot that isn't going to be pointed out by like an automated tool. We'll get into using stuff like SonarQube and some pen testing tools later on. But to start off with, it looks like we initialize our authorization, and it looks like this is all hard-coded, which maybe if I was just running this myself, but if I want other people to run it, this is going to have to not be hard-coded. All this stuff seems like it should really be in like an actual configuration thing somewhere, either configuration file or configuration database table, JSON document, something like that. And a lot of this stuff, like salespeople, shouldn't that be part of a table? Dashboards. Obviously, all of these are hard-coded users. They should not be hard-coded. This should be maybe part of the user record. You know, what dashboard should a user have access to? And we'll get back to authentication in a minute, because that's also going to be a hotspot. I already know that. Programs. This is something that's kind of weird about this. I don't think most people who are using an order management system are also going to be using it as a bug tracker, and therefore have a list of software programs. So this might actually go away completely. We'll see. QNotify. I'm not really sure what this does. I have no idea. yeah, I couldn't tell you. Really no idea what this is. Okay. Similarly, that I don't know. We'll have to find out what all this is. Oh, yep. Yeah, don't want that. So this is one of the reasons that I'm not having this be open source, because there's going to be stuff like that floating around, and that really shouldn't be there. That should be in configuration somewhere. So I hope that this Stripe account is actually completely deactivated. So let's see. Yeah, base URL. That seems kind of odd. This, no idea what this is, but definitely not something that should live in configuration, because I don't think this is going to be specific to, I don't think, everybody's going to have something different there, and I don't even know where that's used. No idea what all this is. So all of this is hotspots. Bad. We're going to have to get this out of code and into something else somewhere. So I mentioned we need to talk about authentication. So let's go to, that'll be vendor Pales auth. Okay, so this is what we're using for authentication. And it's actually, I think originally it was based on a project called UserPy. I would really like to use something different for authentication. I get the feeling that UserPy is not really well maintained anymore. It's definitely not designed for this sort of thing. It's not MVC. I'd really like to find something else, or build something else. Building your own authentication system is generally ill-advised, but we'll have to see. We'll have to get into it, and we'll have to see what we want to do from an authentication system, especially considering we'll probably want to be able to authenticate with Google, maybe an Office 365, Microsoft 365, maybe with Okta or something like that. We'll want to have those flexible authentication mechanisms. So one option might be to just pull this into the app itself directly, so that we can very easily maintain it and make it do exactly what we want it to do. Or we might actually get into just like, let's address the auth system as its own plugin. That is an open source project. Even my fork of it is an open source project. So maybe we'll address that as a kind of a project of its own. And similarly with some of these other things, like Pales. Pales is the core that provides the MVC framework for all of this. I haven't maintained it in several years, so there are definitely some things that could be done to that. Maybe we'll improve upon that. Maybe we'll use something like Laravel, that exists out there, or it might be useful still to kind of show how that works in a more stripped down version, because Pales is much lighter weight than Laravel is. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're interested in, how do these MVC frameworks work, I'd be more than happy to do a little deep dive on Pales and maybe add some additional features in the context of this application. Similarly with Pales Active Record. So I mentioned in a previous video that this is actually based on a project called PHP Active Record. And I've already run into some issues where some of the things that it does are not compatible with newer versions of PHP. I don't know why. That'll be something to find out. Or it might be better just to go adopt, Eloquent, which is Laravel's ORM, or something along those lines. Not really sure. I really like Active Record, and there are a lot of models here that kind of already assume Active Record. There are some things that I would definitely want to add to it if I continue to use it. I don't think the querying language is quite where I want it to be. It's still very SQL heavy. It's not to the point where we're writing SQL code in our PHP, and creating a SQL injection risk, but it is very SQL heavy and doesn't really lend itself to building up queries gradually through more complicated logic. So I might want to add some sort of query builder or something like that. So that might be something that we'll get into. It really depends. Honestly, it probably depends mostly on what this issue is, why I'm having an issue with this. So if this is an easy issue to resolve, then maybe we'll keep using Pale's active record. If this is a difficult issue to resolve, then I might go looking for another ORM, as much as it pains me to abandon this one. But realistically, in the interest of getting this up and running, it might not really make sense to keep reinventing the wheel. It might make sense to just use a package. I actually had a video a while back where I talked about what to look for when picking a library to depend on. And if I continue to use Active Record, Pale's Core, and Pale's Auth, I would be breaking a lot of the recommendations that I made in that video. So probably a good sign that I should use something else. I'm not sure. Hopefully by the time this video is posted, I'm actually doing this video a few weeks in advance. But hopefully by the time this video is posted, I'll have an answer for that. And in some of the videos the rest of this week, I'll be able to talk about what my plans are moving forward. If you have a recommendation, go ahead and leave a comment below. And with that, I think I'm probably going to call it good on this video. I'm sure there are other hotspots, but those are the ones that I found just from dancing around the app and looking through it and kind of getting familiar with it and clicking through in some of the previous videos. We will run some automated tools against the app, so I'm sure we'll find a lot more. But for now, that's it. That's all we found. And that's where we're going to start. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and subscribe and click that notification bell so you'll know when I post the next videos, which is basically every weekday. I post a video every weekday. But especially so you'll be notified when the next video where I share my screen and show some code. And hopefully next week I'll be writing some code. And you'll know when that'll happen. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you think there are other things I should do with this app. If there are other things that you saw that maybe are bad. I've had this Stripe key visible on the screen for the last several minutes that I've been talking, so that's bad. But other than that, that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.